The biggest question I've been getting on Instagram is how much does it cost to re-stump a home? So I'll get to that in a minute. Just let me get out of here first. Whoa! Back on the jacks for re-stumping part 2. All right, so we've exposed all of this, ripped off the cladding. We're gonna knock out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're gonna work our way sideways under the house. Well, that's the plan anyway. These ones are a bit easier, and then it just gets harder the further we go. Whoa! There's a lot more than I expected. We'll have to start digging. Oh. Yeah, there's like 40 years worth of leaves and stuff in there. That's gonna make a problem because we're gonna have to fill this in before we can do that corner stump. I might have to trench a bit more. It'll dry out pretty quick. I just cracked it. It's so brittle, this old stuff. Oh, I don't want to have to dig the whole thing out. All right, well, that's out of the way. Oh, this one doesn't look so good. Oh, hey. It's gonna be easier to pull it out. She's rotten through. Oh wow, it's like paper. It's actually dry. Look at it though, it's like paper. Wow, it feels like balsa wood. Another ripper stump. What happened to that stump? It's a real good one. Look at it, ripper. Haven't even dug it yet. Oh wow. Okay, so this side of the house is not much better than the front. Yeah, that's a ripper.
I'm going to leave that cladding on.
Yeah, we can dig around it. I just went to get the hammer to try and pull it off. Don't need to. All right, well, we'll dig these 3 and then we'll do a concrete run. Actually, I might dig that one at the front as well, on the LVL, the end of the LVL. I reckon we dig that one so we can conk that at the same time. Then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We might use all that mix, you know.
We probably will use all that mix. All right, time to solve another problem. So this bearer is f***ed. So what we're gonna do is get this and replace it, put it in there, add some more stumps. Pretty fun for a 40-degree day to add extra work. So part of the problem is we've got a join here and only a short section of bearer, and this one actually dips a lot. We're gonna get this LVL to go past that join all the way almost to the end and add a few more stumps in. It'll be stronger than it was before. Past that join. Dusty, get out of it. I'll start setting this other one up the other end. Way better system than what we did last time. We're almost hard up against this one. I think it needs to be straightened a bit still. Yeah, it's getting worse. This way, I mean. Got to kick the bottom out a bit. It's hard up against those 2. Hard up, gap. Lower this one. I don't think there's any pressure on it. It's not moving down. Oh. We need something that's straight, man. None of this is straight is the problem. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8. 8 posts along this end. How many?
600 centres, whatever that is for 4/8.
I'll get 20 in case we have to do it again.
Yeah.
No more Bunnings trips. Oh hey, you're still here. I'm still here. I never left. The grass has grown, but the stumps are done. Finally. We went back and forth. We were doing other jobs in between, but we did finish the re-stumping. I've been getting a heap of questions on my Instagram stories about how much it costs to re-stump a house. Apparently, lots of people have bouncy floors and need to fix them. Let me get under the house for one last time. I've got to pull out the last of those jacks. Then I'll sit down and give you a rundown on everything we spent and how much it cost to re-stump this house. Time to go under. Oh man, there's been birds under here. Look at this old stump. Apparently it was easier to cut it in half than it was to pull it out. Oh, look at that, still battery. left this one under here for a while. I need to find one of those poles that we used to jack them up because it's time to pull the last jacks out. All right, concrete's gone off. We've still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Still got about 10 jacks set up under this house and it's been a while. Let's get these out. That's it, the last jack is out. It's gonna be good to get out from under here and not come back under. I do have 4 stumps to go right up in that back corner because there wasn't enough room to crawl around, dig holes. We'll do that when we rip the floors up in the bedroom, but the biggest question I've been getting on Instagram is how much does it cost to re-stump a home? So I'll get to that in a minute. Just let me get out of here first. Benny taught me this trick. But I've done it backwards, haven't I? God. Let's try again. Spin around this way. Then you sit in your barrow. I've written some notes because it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. So you might be able to tell a little bit of time has passed since we actually finished concreting in those stumps down the west side of the house because it's blowing a gale, it's raining, and it's no longer hot. We did have the luxury of starting this when the weather was a little bit better, but the weather got a little bit worse. So Benny and I started this project a long time ago, quite a few months ago. We did finish the majority of the stumping works quite quick. I'll run through how long it took and what it costs in a sec. But since then we have re-floored half the house and put all the new timber floors. That's coming soon. I'm just here to pull out the last of the jacks and give you a rundown on how much it costs to re-stump a home because there's a few variables involved. So I did get a couple of quotes. This was one of those jobs I wasn't going to tackle myself. I was going to pay someone to do it so I could work on other projects inside the house while this was happening. But 1, it came back very expensive. 2, there was no one local that could do it. So I was getting quotes from Geelong and Melbourne and they were going to send teams down and apparently they were going to knock it out really quick, but they couldn't give me an exact price. There are a few variables when you start a job like this, things that you might have to change along the way, things like this. Adding in new bits of timber, rotten things that you can't see until you pull things apart. But my first quote came in at $34,000, that's Australian, plus extras. So what they actually do when quoting a re-stumping job is price it up based on how many stumps they're doing, and then they add variables into it. If bits of timber are rotten, it's going to cost you X per meter to replace bits of timber plus labor and the rest of it. I had a quote that was about 34 grand, and then I kind of confirmed a few extras. It was probably going to end up being about that 40 grand mark. That was one quote, around 40 grand. I got a second quote and it was vastly different because the guy didn't ask for any photos, didn't come out to see it, was from even further away, and he quoted $24,000. So then I was like, what do I do? I've got 2 quotes that are very different, 24 to 40. The 24 is probably not going to be realistic. The 40 is not fixed either. It was probably going to blow out a little bit more as well. I got a third quote. I got a local person to quote it up. I was going to get him to come and actually do the job, but he didn't turn up for 3 weeks. Anyway, we ended up doing it ourselves. It's raining now. It's winter, so that's going to happen. So I had 2 quotes. One was going to be about 40K, one was going to be about 24K plus extras. And then the local guy was going to do it at the lower end of that price, but he didn't turn up. What did I do? Spoke to Benny, said, let's just do it ourselves. I ordered some sand and aggregate to make concrete, got cement bags, and I ordered some concrete stumps. So I'll go through what it actually cost me in materials. I ordered concrete mix and cement, and I picked it up from a local landscaping supply joint. I did that twice. That was about $250 each time. So about 500 bucks in concrete. I already have a cement mixer, so we mixed cement as we went. We didn't order a concrete chuck. We didn't order a pump. That's an extra expense that a re-stumping mob will charge you if they have to hire a pump to pump it or if they're going to barrow it in. So we just mixed it up as we went because we only really did about 5 stumps at a time. I ordered about 65 concrete stumps at varying lengths. They range from about $9 to $12 each depending on how long they are. So that was $855 in concrete stumps and ant caps. I had a few other bits and pieces. We've got some strapping, screws, hardware, that sort of stuff I had around anyway from our last job, call it another $100. The big thing that I did have to buy actually was jacks. I went around to I think 6 different Supercheap stores and bought every single one of their own branded jacks I could get off the shelf. So every time I went back to the city or went into Geelong or whatever, I went past the Supercheap store and grabbed as many jacks off the shelf they had. I think I did 4 trips and I spent about 3.5 grand on jacks. I thought I was going to be able to return some if I didn't use them, but we ended up using them all. I just pulled out 10, but I think I've got about 24 jacks in total. And we did actually end up needing them all because if you remember part 1 of the restumping video, we actually had to jack this whole side of the house in one go. There's 9 stumps across here, and I think we probably put about 14 or 15 jacks under it to prop it up while we got the new stumps in the ground. And then while we were working row by row, we actually worked sort of east to west. We went across the house. We were using, 10 at a time, putting concrete in the ground, leave it for 3 days to let the concrete go off while we're working on the next row. So we kind of used them all as we went. So they're all a little bit rusty now. I'll chuck them in the shed. If anyone else local to me is doing a restumping job, hit me up. I'll loan them to you or I'll sell them to you cheap. So that was 3.5 grand. We've done stumps, we've done concrete mix, timber. I bought a lot of timber. I bought these LVLs to lift the house and then we ended up leaving some of them in. We ended up using them as extra props to strengthen parts of the house. They're doubled up. These things are $100 each a length basically. This one's been chopped down. There's another one down there. This is a 200, but I think we used a 150 by 45 and we doubled them up and we bolted them together. There's another $1,000 in timber there. There's probably another couple of $100 in timber that we used as blocks. We basically used 200 by 45s. It was whatever I could get at Bunnings at the time really. And we chopped them up into 300-400 sections to use as base plates and blocks to put the jacks on. So call that another $1,000, so $2,000 in timber and then about 3.5 grand in labor. I think we probably spent nearly 2 weeks in total, but we were doing other jobs in between. And then that doesn't include my time or extra time that we spent on it. All in, I've got written down $9,355. Rounded up, probably about 10 grand I spent. There's probably other things I bought that I didn't account for. There's a few boxes of bolts. There's some threaded rod that we used when we didn't have bolts. But apart from that, the biggest cost that we had was the jacks to do the job, the timber, then the stumps. The concrete was not that much. We mixed it all ourselves. I already had a cement mixer. I think if you were starting from scratch and you didn't have a cement mixer and you didn't have some tools and stuff, you could probably budget for about 15 grand to restump a house. So there's almost a simpler way of working this out. Most restumping mobs, when they quote you, will quote you a per stump price. That includes their labor, that includes pulling out the old one, putting the new one in, and the concrete. And most companies now, around this time in 2024, are quoting in Australia or in Victoria, are quoting about $450 per stump. So if you can count up how many stumps you've got and budget for around that $450, maybe call it $500 a stump, that'll give you a rough estimate as your sort of base price of how much it's going to cost you to restump your house. Other factors, access. I've got really good access under this house. We can crawl around about 90% of it with not too much problems. You can sit underneath it while you're digging, while you're pulling up your old stump, while you're holding up your new one, propping it, all the rest of it. If you don't have good access or you can't cut access from outside and get under there, it's going to cost you more. You're going to have to cut holes in your floor or find some other way of getting under it to do the restumping and then fix your flooring. So that's an extra cost. If you have to replace any of your bearers, extra cost. One of the companies quoted me $120 per meter per beam to replace. It's a ballpark cost. One of these LVLs is about $100 a pop at a 4.8 length from Bunnings, so work that out. So that's about how much it costs to restump a house. It's about to get dark. I'm getting rained on. I might end it here, but if you've got any questions, leave it in the comments below and I'll try and get back to you. Thanks for watching.